All right, guys, let's take a look at the last lesson in our unit. Let's talk about surface area and volume of compound figures. So let's take a look at how that works. All right. So first thing we want to do anytime we find the volume and surface area of compound figures is we want to split the shape up into different spaces, into figures that we know standard, whether it's a cube, a rectangular prism, a triangular prism, or a pyramid. We want to split it up into one of those 4 different shapes, really, so that we can find them. So the first thing we're going to do is split the figure, and here I'm going to go ahead and split it right here. That's going to let me say, okay, here's my first cube down here. It's all this shape. And then my second rectangular, not cube, a rectangular prism and another rectangular prism. So I'm going to say, so I'm finding volume of 1, and this will make this one 2. So the volume of my shape 1 plus the volume of shape 2. That's what makes it composite or compound. I'm going to write out my formula. So this formula is big BH. Okay, plus another same because this is big BH. So I'm going to fill out my information. Okay. So now we figure out our information. So I need big B. So each of these shapes has a big B. So we'll call this front shape. So we know that we're going to create this. Let me get rid of some of this extra drawing space. This space from here to here, if this is 8 and this is 16, this is also have to be 8. So I have 8 by 8, and then this depth is 6. Okay, so I'm going to say I really have my volume. I'm going to call this front set my base. So 64 times 6. Plus now we come up here to the second one. Now we have all the figures we need measures right here. It's already on here. So we'll say my volume down here is 16 inches. 16 times 8. Get my calculator out so I don't have to do the math in my head. Is 128 times my height of 6. So now I'm just going to do the math. 64 times 6 is 384 cubic inches. 128 times 6 is going to be 768 cubic inches. So we add those together and we get 1,152 cubic inches. So it's very similar to how you do compound area, except we're now using the volume formulas. All right, I want you guys to go ahead and try to find the volume of this compound, figure. Pause the video and see what you come up with. All right, I'm choosing to cut mine vertically right here. Okay, so we're creating this whole separate piece separate. So let's do our form again. We have volume 1 and 2. We only have 2 different shapes. Plus volume 2. So the formula, they're both rectangular prisms, so they're big BH. Okay? So how we figure out big BH, so we've got 7 by 12. And then if this is 10 and this is 16, this right here has to be 6. So we'll call, doesn't matter what size, since it's a rectangular prism, we'll call this side right here our big B, so it's 42 times 12. And over here we'll call this same one. So again, we already know if this is 16, that's 10. All I need to do is get this depth, and then we know that's 12 because all of these right here along this side are 12. So we'll call our base right here, this front one, 10 times 14 is 140 times 12. So we'll put this into our calculator, 42 times 12 plus 140 times 12 equals 2,184 cubic inches. All right. Now let's take a look at a different shape. Let's look at our volume of, say, maybe a pyramid. And in this case, this happens to be a cube, but you can also do the same formula as a rectangular prism. So, and that's what we're going to do just to stay current on this. Now, we have 2 shapes again this time, volume of 1 and volume of 2. But this time I have big BH for one formula. My other formula is 1/3 of big BH, 1/3 of the base times the height. So each way we've got to find big B. So big B here is 64 times 8. Here we're going to have to find big B. So again, it's still 64. The base of this pyramid is the same as the base of this cube. So 1/3 of 64 times my height. And my height is not this 6.4. It's perpendicular to the base, not to the lateral, not the slant height. So times 5. So 64 nor 5 divided by 1/3. So I'm going to do all this separately. So I'm going to do 64 times 8, and that gives me 512 for the volume of my cube. 64 times 5 divided by 3 is, sorry, let me type that again. 64 times 5, that gives me 320. 320 divided by 3 is roughly 106 2/3 feet cubed. So together, I get 618 2/3 feet cubed. Now, of course, you can go ahead and make this a decimal of 0.67 or 0.7, depending on how the directions are written. Either one would be considered correct. Or you could even have it as 0.6 repeating. All right, pause the video and see if you can find the space for this one. Or the volume, I'm sorry, volume, this one is. All right, so again, it's another compound with 2 different shapes. Now, it can have as many shapes as we want, but this one's 2 figures again. So we have our same, this time we don't have a cube, but we're still going to use our big BH plus a pyramid, which is 1/3 big BH. Now let's work our problem. The base down here is 56 times 8 plus 1/3 of that same 56 times 6. Now in this case, 1/3 of 6 is exact, so I can make this pretty easy on myself. 56 times 8 is 448. 1/3 of 6 is 2. 2 times 56 is 112. That leaves me with a final area of 506, or sorry, not area, volume of 560 cubic feet for that composite shape. Now let's switch gears and take a look at surface area. Now surface area is a little different because surface area, if you're finding surface area of these shapes and you split the area, which is what you're going to do, you're going to split the area. You've got to do a little bit of thinking when it comes to bases. Okay? You can't have certain bases work out. So, great thing about rectangular prisms is the surface area is the same. Okay? So, if you think about a surface area of a rectangular prism, and you have 2 of them, the spaces are going to end up being the same. Okay? Even though it's a compound shape, the lateral faces, the parallel shapes, are going to be equal the other lateral face. Okay? Here, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. If I think about here, this one and this one are going to equal the same area as this side. The only difference is going to be these faces where they have a different shape. They're not rectangular. So we can do this math a little differently. Okay? So I can find surface area, but I'm going to probably split this up into different surface area pieces. I'm going to say, okay, I have 2 of these faces. This is more similar to the LH, LW, HW formula for surface area. Okay? So to find my pink, my green one, my surface area is 16 times 6, or 16 times 6. That's going to give me my surface area for this one, because those are the 2 measures that I have. And there's 2 sides like that. To find my pink figures, get my pink out, I have 2 sides that are like this again. Again, it's 16, but instead of being, no, I'm going to have the same idea, 16 by 6 again. Okay? Now, the one thing I have to do is I'm going to have to split up this special face. Okay? I'm going to have to split this up to find my lateral faces, to find this face because it's different. So I've got a front and a back. I'm going to change colors. Let's go to this bright dark blue right here. This figure is going to be 16 by 8. And I've got 2 of those. Plus 2 times 16 times 8. And then I've got my other one. I'll put this one in like this light, pretty light green here. That's hard to see. Is this shape. And I've got another one mirroring it on the other side. So if this was 8, that makes this 16. If this is 16 and this is 8, so we've got 8 and 8 by 8 plus 2 times 8 times 8. So it's very similar to the LH, LW, HW formula, except I'm splitting up that one shape that is not a traditional rectangle. So now we just type all this into our calculator. 16 times 6, those happen to be 96, so 2 times 96. So I've got 192. Let me change colors again. Let's go all dark green on this one. 192 plus 192. 16 times 8 times 2 is 256. It's my dark blue. And then 64 times 2 is 128. I can happen to do that in my head. So I'm going to come through and add all these up. 192 plus 192 plus 256 plus 128. Together, that's 768 inches squared, or square inches. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try to figure out the surface area of this shape. All right, so I'm going to take a second to color code it one more time just to make our lives easier. We got green here, and we'll have one over here that's green. We'll do this dark red. That's going to be, oh, didn't change colors. Let me try again. This dark red and this dark red are equal to the dark red down here. This is the other one I'm going to have to split up. So we'd split up the lateral face right here. We'll make this side red, and we'll do the other one gray this time. So let's figure out those area mentions for each one of those, and then again, remembering there is a mirror side on the other side, we have to double those. So we'll start with the green side, 2 of those. So we know it's 14 long by 12 deep, so 14 times 12. Our dark red this time is 16 long, and then deep, it's 12 inches again. We'll go over to our bright red. Okay, and this time I've got a width of 10, and then 14 tall, so 10 and 14. I'm out of space, so I'm going to go down below on the gray. Plus, and then I have mine here, which again, we've kind of looked at this. This is 10 and this is 16. This piece right here is 6, and that's 7, so 2 times 6 times 7. So again, let's just do all this in our calculator. 2 times 14 times 12 gives me my first one. I'll go ahead and go dark purple colors. 336 for my first one. 12 times 16 times 2 gives me 384 for my second dark blue or dark red. 2 times 14 is 140. 140 times 2 is 280. And then 6 times 7 is 42. 42 times 2 is 84. So again, just come back to my calculator. 336 plus 384 plus 280 plus 84 gives me a final surface area of 1,084 cubic feet. Okay? Or sorry, not cubic feet, square inches. Got my math, got my units mixed up. The last type we're going to look at is the surface area of a composite figure. Now I want you to picture this for a second. If you take this apart, you'll notice that if you put a house together, I can't really show you something because it's a screen capture, but think about putting a house together, you have a ceiling and a floor that would not be on the outside. You have a bottom and you have a roof and you have all your walls, but you're not going to have that ceiling floor. So we're going to change up our formulas a little bit. We're going to think about it differently because I'm not finding I can still use my surface area formulas for a pyramid, but we're going to have to modify them a little bit. Okay? So we have our 2 surface areas. We have surface area of 1 and surface area of 2. So how do I find surface area of this one? It's 2 times the base plus the height times the perimeter. Okay, that's our formula. But in this case, we only have one base showing. So we're going to change the formula to base plus perimeter times height. For our pyramid, our formula is really 1/2 of slant height times the perimeter plus the base. But you'll notice that base is on the inside. So it's not part of the out. So it's really going to end up being 1/2 slant height times perimeter. Okay? So let's work our way through this. So let's fill in what we know. Our base is 8 times 8. So big B is 64. Our perimeter of that, 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 is 32. times the height, which is 8, plus 1/2. Our lateral height is 6 4/10, plus the perimeter. Our perimeter is the same as the perimeter down here, so 32. So again, we're going to do our math. 32 times 8 is 256. We have 64 plus 256. Half of 32 is 16, so 16 times 6 4/10 gives me 102 4/10. Now again, going back to my calculator, typing all of that in to get my final surface area, 422 4/10 square feet. Okay? All right. Your turn to figure this one out. Pause the video and see what you come up with. All right, once again, they share that same common base in the middle, so we're going to delete that out of our formulas. So we've got surface area 1 and surface area 2. Okay, so this time, again, we take our formula. It's going to be 1 base plus perimeter times height plus 1/2 of perimeter times slant length. So let's fill in all of our information. Our base here, big B, is 49. Our perimeter is 28. And our height is 8. Plus 1/2. Our perimeter is the same, 28. Plus our slant length times our slant length, which is 7 2/10. So we'll just start working the math. 28 times 8 is 224. Plus 49. Plus half of 28 is 14. 14 times 7 2/10. I get 108 108/10, and then start adding those up. I get a 373 8/10 square feet for my surface area. Again, the key is remembering that space right there in the middle, that's why I removed the base out of this formula and why I only have 1 base in this formula. Okay? All right, you're all set. If you have questions, please reach out and I'd be happy to help you.